Hey, what's up guys? Today we're going to do a build video for the OpenPPG 22 v3. First off, we're going to start off by going over the frame, so just building each arm assembly, legs, and then the center main plate, gooseneck bars, all that good stuff. And then we're going to go over the wiring, so just kind of how to solder up your motors, your ESCs, your main power switch, all that good stuff. And then in part two, it's going to be another separate video. We're going to go over the startup procedure, check it out to make sure everything's right, go in the right direction, putting your props on, all that good stuff, and then putting your net on the outside and kind of doing your first fire up. So let's get started. Okay, to start off, some of the tools you might want to have. A nice set of little pliers, just needle nose pliers for getting those bolts on. A nice set of cutters. You can use a knife or something like that. Again, any knife will work. And then Allen wrenches, so going to need a couple Allen wrenches, one size. I use this for the smaller M3 size bolts, and then I use this for the larger M4 size bolts. It doesn't matter. You can use an Allen wrench key, or you can put it in a driver to make it a little bit quicker. Some like electrical tape just for shoring up your connections. This makes it a little bit easier. I like this better than heat shrink. It just seems to be more adaptive. Of course, soldering iron, so just get a nice soldering iron. You probably already have one if you're going to do a pre-build kit. It'd be pretty hard to do it without soldering. And of course some 60-40 just solder. Get the lead kind. Don't get that lead-free stuff. It's not going to work as well. And maybe some red Loctite to finish up some of the knobs on the tightening latch that you don't want to have come undone. You can use blue stuff, but this might just stay a little bit better. One more thing, maybe a socket too for, we'll kind of do this later in the videos, a socket just for tightening up your prop nuts. Now on to the first thing. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about the bottom plate. So we'll jump into that. Okay, and for the bottom plate, you're going to have a couple different pieces. So you're going to have your two bottom plates that are going to get sandwiched in between the legs. There's two different types of legs. There's going to be 4 of these total. I already have one assembled here just to kind of show you a little bit better. But you're going to have 4 of these. So this is an inside leg, this is an outside leg. The way you can tell the difference is there's this little cut in this one. And these are both the same size and everything. But this one has this cut right here. And that's how you can tell it's the inside leg. So this one's going to go right on this path right here. Once you do one, you do the other one just like it, except like a mirror version of it. And that just slots into like that. So now it's pretty simple. All we're going to have to do is put the bolts through. And that's what I like to do first. So you're going to end up with something like this. Try to get this all in frame for you. These are the 20 millimeter standoffs. These are the smallest size of the 3. So you can install these now. The bottom 3D printed piece, it's just going to go in between the legs. And it's the same way you do the arms too. And we're not using this hole right here. That was from a previous design. You could use it for extra strength, but it's not necessary. So bolt there, bolt there, bolt there, bolt there, bolt there, and there and there. So we can tell by that notch, this is the inside one. And it's only going to fit one way. So we can put this leg on the inside right there. Alright, and it's just going to slot right in like that. So now it's a nice like tight fit, kind of friction fit itself in. But so now you can tell what we're going to need. We're going to need the other plate on this side to kind of finish it up and pull it together and sandwich all the things together. So what I like to do first is I actually like to put the bolts in this piece first. So for this we're going to be using 35 millimeter standoffs. These are like the medium size standoff. And you can kind of see we're just going to run it through just like so. One bolt, and the standoff just goes on the other side. So you're just going to screw that down. Okay, so now that we got our two leg pieces sandwiched together, got the bolts all running through. Now what we can do is we can take our plate, we have all these bolts in right here, and we can stick it right on here. So we're going to match up the inside leg, right, we were talking about earlier, that little notch, and we're going to line it up with this. Okay, bam, slides right in. Same thing with the other leg. Okay, so now we got 2 legs locked right in there. You can see, I'm going to get a better shot for you guys later on when we kind of get this all sorted out. And now we're just going to put this last piece on. So this is going to hold everything in place, and then we're just going to run our bolts through each one of these to these standoffs. Okay, now she's all locked in. Now we can start running our bolts through. You can actually use 2 Allen wrenches. They're super cheap, and you can just get 2 of them. And you can tighten up from both sides if you really need to. Sometimes you don't, sometimes you need to. But yeah, so we're just going to finish tightening all these up. Just one to hold it. You could probably use like your pliers or something to hold the other side too. Okay, so our whole thing is all assembled. It's nice and stiff. It's not going anywhere. The next step we can do is we can take our metal hinges. These are for our top piece up here. This is going to attach your main plate, and these two are going to go on the bottom. So it's pretty easy. There's just 4 holes here. You're going to line it up with these holes, so you can just set them in there. Kind of line them up, and then you can just run your bolts in there. So I'll show you that. Okay, so now with our 4 bolts in, we're just going to tighten them up. Same thing as the other side, and then we're complete with this whole piece. Alright, kind of get a close-up for you to kind of see how everything is in there. Again, we're just, basically, it's pretty simple. You're bolting on all the bolts on the front plate, and you're basically sandwiching these legs between the 2 bottom plates. That's what it should look like. Again, here's the bolt pattern. So next step is just going to do an arm. You're just going to do this 4 times. You got 4 arms and 4 motors, of course. So it's pretty simple, same kind of construction as the legs. It's all that kind of sandwiched, bolted together construction. So the main piece first we're going to start off with, we're going to take the motor out of a package. You can set these stickers aside. They might come in handy later to kind of show our motor direction. And just grab our motor out of the box. Looks good. First thing we're going to do is we're going to think about how this motor plate is going to mount here. And it's going to be the less curved side is going to go towards the motor wires, because that's going to run towards our frame. So it's going to go like this, but first we need to put our bolts through here so it lines up. So we're going to get a 20mm standoffs that come in the little packages. So now that we got our 20mm standoffs and our little bolts, we're going to run them through a bolt there, a bolt here, a bolt there, and a bolt right there. So we're going to use these 4 kind of outside bolts. Just run one through. Alright, so now we got all the standoffs in there. And now we can actually mount this to the motor, because now we don't have to get to the side anymore. So we're just going to lay it down just like so. Going to line it up. We're going to use these inside 4 mounting holes. These are the M4 size bolts now. So yeah, now the first step for the motors are done. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take our second plate and we're going to mount it on these 4 standoffs. In a certain direction this actually mounts. If you rotate it this way, it's going to be the wrong way. So we're going to have, there's one side that has a little bit less of a gap here, and the side with the more of a gap is going to go facing out on the motor, so the more curved side. If you mount it the other way, it's just going to be a lot tighter to fit. Okay, so now we got our 4 bolts in there. Should look something like this. You can kind of see how that mounts in there first. I like to do this part first, and then we can stick the arms between it. And we're going to do something similar, just kind of like how we did the legs. We're going to stick our bolts, all of our holes here, on our arm first. That way it'll make it easier, and we don't have to be fiddling inside the motor trying to get the stuff through. So let's do that. But again, it's pretty simple how this goes. You're just going to kind of line it up here, just like we did with the legs. It's going to slot in. It's going to be a nice little friction fit. You can kind of see how that goes now. And we're just going to do this to both sides, run our bolts through, and then we'll be done. Alright, then we're going to end up with something that looks like this. You just run your standoffs in between all the arms. There's 4 holes right here, and this is for mounting the ESC. I'll show you that in a little bit. But then same thing here. We're going to mount our hinge, our main hinge piece. The hinge actually has like a curved side that's more curved, and it'll only mount one way, so you'll be able to tell. End piece, it's the same thing. Just like how we did the leg pieces, it's just going to mount like this. So you just sandwich them in between there, and make sure your curved piece is going to go out like this. You don't want it flipped around the other way because your tubing is going around the outside like this. That's pretty much it for the arms. The only last thing we have to do is we can mount the ESCs. You can mount them really any way you like. It's not a structural component, but there is these 4 mounting points, and you do have the option to mount it on those 4 holes right here. So ESCs have 2 different sets of wires here. This is your power right here, so your battery power is going to be coming in right here, and this is your motor output. It basically converts DC to AC for your motor. That's why there's 3 wires, and that's kind of what I'll show here for direction. These ESCs come with real long motor leads, so you can cut this down to whatever size you want. Generally, it's just going to be cut down to, say, like probably like right around here, or like even shorter, maybe here, because it's just mounting in here and it has to line up with these motor wires right there. So pretty simple. Basically, you solder one motor wire onto each one of these. So here, here, here. It doesn't matter which one, so you can solder to any of one of those. But if your motor direction is spinning the wrong way, then you can flip any two of the wires. So say you solder all these wires on and your motor's spinning in the wrong direction, you can grab any, just which two, and you just flip them. And that'll reverse your motor direction. And then you can just run your ESC leads right through these holes here, so it hinges nice and without catching. So that's all it for the arms now and the motor mounts. So now we just ran our ESC wires right through here, and we just soldered up our ESC to our motor. Remember, it doesn't matter which way, just make sure you keep track of the motor direction. And if you need to reverse two, because two spin clockwise and two spin counterclockwise, two sets of these motors, so make sure two spin one way, make sure two spin the other way. Okay, so the next thing we're going to take a look at is just the Gooseneck Farce. Pretty simple. You got this main piece that attaches to the body, and this bar just hinges around that. So pretty simply, we're just going to stick this in there. It's going to slide around, so you've got a nice free rotation. And then the next step is we're just running a bolt through on this side and putting this nut on. And first, this retainer cap goes on. Line it up, stick your bolt through, and now you're just going to attach your nut. You can get your Allen key and you can tighten it up from the other side. But yeah, that's all it is right there. And that's how the gooseneck bar attaches. Pretty simple. Okay, so the next thing we're going to take a look at is just the knobs, how it attaches to the main body of the frame. See that little indentation? The rubber washer is just going to set right in there. Just like so. And this is going to go on this side of the frame here. So how this goes is you take your knob and you're going to have them all face up, and you're going to use it, put it in this hole right here, this outside hole. There's a spring around our M4 bolt. We'll put it in there. And that's going to provide tension, constant tension to this knob. And this is where you can apply some like a Loctite if you don't want this coming undone. Okay, you're just going to tighten that up. Now it's nice and smooth. You can kind of see how this spring is on there, and you can see that washer, how it rubs around on the inside, makes it nice and smooth. So that's pretty much it. You're just going to do that 4 times for each side and each of the arms. Okay, so the next thing we can kind of look at here is, it's pretty simple. We're just going to mount our hinges on this piece. We already mounted the hinge on this lower plate, and then we just run our bolt through there. Pretty simple. It's only one size. You'll be able to tell if it's too big, but it should be a pretty snug little fit. So hopefully you can see there. You guys know how bolts work. So that's pretty much it. On to the next step. I'll show you more of the wiring. Okay, I lost the audio for this one too, but basically what I'm saying here is there's a bolt running through the bottom. That big, I think it's like a 45, or it's like a 65 millimeter bolt, and that's what it all hinges on. And then you're just going to do that for each of the sides. And there is 2 different pieces. There's a right and left, and you're just going to get 4 of each. And then you can kind of see where that plate goes on. There's a little bit of gap. I'm going to try my best to kind of show you guys the wiring setup here. So once you get done with your motors and everything like that, you're just going to have your 2 outs. So you need to provide power to each of the ESCs. So once you have them all in the center, all you're going to do is pretty simple. You can use the XT60s or XT90s here if you like. I found it easier just to direct solder. I'm not taking the motors off or anything, or the arms off very often, and it is super easy to do. So if you want to take the time and put the connectors on there, you can do that. But this is just a direct wire, and it should be a little bit easier to see what's going on here. So one thing you're going to do is basically you can have power. So here's power from your negative from your batteries, and here's your positive. So positive, you can run positive or negative to the switch, doesn't matter, but this is just a main cutoff switch right here. So once you turn it on, it connects the power to it. But it's pretty simple. So if we follow our positive lead, it runs in there, runs out here, and it runs to all the motors. Pretty simple. And same thing with the negative. Here's a negative, and then it basically is a wiring harness with all the powers. I saw Dave was doing like a bus bar or something like that. You can do any kind of setup really you want, but I found this to be easy and super quick, and it's pretty safe. It doesn't take up a lot of room or anything. But you do have a lot of room in here to mount stuff if you like. So from here, yeah, that's just running out to each of the ESCs, and that's basically it. And the other thing you have to do is just hook up your JST connector here, your 2-pin JST connector, and this is going to run to the voltage divider, which in turn is going to power your controller, and it's going to give it a voltage value so you actually know what your battery is. So that's basically it. So next step, we're going to jump into the controller. I'm going to show you how to hook up all your ESC lines and stuff like that. Alrighty. Last step, we got all of our ESCs wires ready to go. We're going to make a little Y harness like this. It's just 4 connectors on the bottom, 4 female connectors, and this comes in the kit, and then just solder them up to 1 male connector. So basically, you're going to plug in each of your ESC wires, and the ESC wires are the ones with just black and white, just signal and ground. So that's pretty much it. Okay, so now we got all the ESCs plugged in to their corresponding wires. Now we can take our throttle controller. So here's our throttle. We got our line running back. We're going to go to the end, and this is our power brick and our main power supply. This is the voltage divider right here. So what we can do is we can actually just take our JST, our female JST, plug it into our male that we soldered onto our main power supply earlier. And so we'll just plug that in, just like so. And now we have 2 different sets of wires here. So one, you can tell this is a power because it has no signal hooked up at all. It's just a black and a red. And this one is our signal because we can tell it's just black and white at the end here. So that's how we can tell. This is going to be our servo lead. So this is going to plug into our Y we made here earlier. So just like so, white to white, black to black. You know. So bam, there's all our ESCs and stuff are all hooked up now. And now what we can do is we can get our power. It's the next step. And we're going to plug our power into from our controller. This is just an extra power lead. You can run something off this if you want to, like LEDs and stuff like that, but we're going to plug this into our power for our controller. Just like so. Kind of looks messy, but we'll get it all cleaned up. Right now we have our 2 leads hooked up to our controller, and now it's all ready to go. So now when we plug in the battery and we turn on our main power switch, our screen will come on, and then we can just double tap to start it up. And we'll do that, kind of go over that in the next video. Sorry this video is kind of a little bit jank. I wanted to get it out to you guys before. I could definitely do a better video, it would just take longer, and I figured a video's better than no video for right now. So feel free to ask questions. I hope this kind of helps with the wiring a little bit, if you can see, but hopefully that works for the connections and all that good stuff. So let me know if you have any questions. I'll be happy to help. And I'll be trying to post pictures, better pictures on the forum and stuff like that. All right, we'll see you guys.